So hello and welcome to All Things Esoteric. My name is Kate and Anthony's here with me.
Hey.
How are you doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, good day today. Lots of research, so I enjoyed what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the moon. Looking forward
and it's
to
Moon
that.
Day, by the way.
Yes. We'll do share about that in a moment. Today is November 8th, 2021, 7:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is where we're broadcasting from. And I am going to give a little sky update here. Not a lot changing with those outer planets. We discussed that kind of in depth last time and the time before. But Uranus still sitting in Taurus, of course, moving through the houses, and will be in Taurus till 2025, 84 years around that zodiac. So just a side hint here, anywhere you have Uranus, you really want to look at that. That's a longer term transit that is trying to teach you a lesson. It can spend 7 years in a house. That's really significant. So those are the milestones that we see at like 7, 14, 21, 28. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. As it works its way around the zodiac. But Uranus has been doing its job in Taurus. It's been hanging out there since 2018, and Taurus rules the second house. It's a Earth-fixed planet with Venus its ruler, so it has to do in Taurus about things on the Earth that we find beautiful and lovely, our earthly relationship to things. So with Uranus being in that sign, especially with current events and what's happening around us, we know there's been a lot of changes. What's going on? You okay?
Yeah, there's a theory, some call a conspiracy theory, that Klaus Schwab and those guys are trying to make it so normal people don't own anything. They rent things. And you said Uranus and Taurus, radical change, and Taurus is about our relationship to things.
Exactly. Right. And I mean, when you look at even COVID and this, 2020, 21, going into 22 here situation, it's changed everything. And you have to look at when we've had these transits before in these planets. This is where it's key to go back and do your own research, because you'll see that you had things like the Great Depression. You had these deep changes and shifts in money, changing hands, and the consequences when Uranus transits Taurus is the dispersal of wealth, and property more equally through society, right? This happened after World War II as well, where we got this growth. We had this huge and tremendous growth after the war. So yeah, it's upheaval for sure. It can be awakenings and unexpected opportunities. But what I wanted to do this evening, instead of go more deeper into like I did last week, I'm going to talk about just the Sabian symbols and let them speak for themselves. And what do you know about the Sabian symbols? Do you know much about them within astrology?
Just a little bit from what you told me. This guy basically wrote an extremely detailed description of each planet in each sign, and I believe a different description for each degree of each planet in each sign.
Yeah, the long story short, Miss Wheeler, I think it was Wheeler or Wilcox, I'm sorry we're not doing a whole study on it, or I would have been more prepared to speak on it, but the skinny on it is she was actually wheelchair bound and couldn't walk. But she was a psychic, very, very into esoteric, hidden, occultic themes, and was very sensitive to energies. And this gentleman, by the end of name of Goldsmith, I believe, Sabian Goldsmith, or somehow those names are connected to it, met with her, and she channeled all the degrees for all the zodiac signs where they would land. So it's consequently each degree is 30, so there's 360 degrees.
So she did that times 7 for each planet in each
30
sign?
degrees times each planet. 30 degrees times each planet, so it's 360 degrees. Because there's 12 signs. Excuse me, I said planet, pardon me. There's 12 signs, and there's 30 degrees per sign. That's how we get the 360 degrees. So each, like Cancer can be at 1 degree, Cancer can be at 2 degree, Cancer can be at 3 degree, all the way up to 30. Right?
Oh, I thought the symbols were the planets in the signs. No, it's just the signs.
It's the actual degree of that energetic stamp of the archetype of that sign of the zodiac.
Got it.
So she channeled these. And I tell you what, I include them in my readings because I find them so sometimes spot on. It's unnerving, actually, because it really gets into the psychology of the person, how she tapped into some kind of knowledge. I don't know. I've not read that much further on it, but I will if we do a Sabian symbol broadcast, right? Because it's important. But I wasn't planning on saying all that, but here it is, okay? So 13 degrees of Taurus is where Uranus is sitting. So Taurus is at 13 degrees, and it's a smiling porter studies a pile of luggage and begins to deftly hoist fags onto his shoulders. Taking on an ambitious and unpleasant political or physical task. Trying to move mountains versus biting off more than one can chew. Feeling buried by a mountain of problems versus taking up one problem at a time. Competent handling of everyday affairs versus obstinately sticking with a method that isn't working. Here we see the shaking up of foundations of things, right? And our attachment to them. Calmly reassessing one's balance of priorities and readjusting one's use of time and energy, which equals money. We know that's the equation. Accordingly, juggling acts, keeping one's head above one's worldly problems. So this is mindfulness. This is having the right attitude about things around you and understanding how you fit into that.
This makes me think of all the people that are trying to go off grid now.
Oh, that's beautiful. Absolutely. It's a very earthy, this is Taurus. This is earth, fixed earth. This is, I want to talk to you about earthly things that we're on every day, that our feet are under. The needs of others.
Food comes from the ground. Water comes from the ground.
Right.
Drugs come from the ground. Why the fuck are you paying money for these things?
Getting reconnected to herbs. That's definitely ties in, because that ties into money, and money, you can't buy your health. You've heard this, wink, wink. You can't buy your health. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man strong, wealthy, and wise. This symbiotic relationship with rhythms of nature, keeping one's head above one's worldly problems, like I said, right? Serving the needs of the times or the needs of others. Must remember to attend to their own needs too. But it's a collective energy, right? But always take care of the self. Cheerfully accepting a lower station in life versus fighting for the equalization of the classes. Fighting political oppression, limiting one's efforts to what one can be accomplished. Putting in the requisite effort. So it's fixed energy on Earth. It's about, it takes a long time to grow a garden. You've got to first prepare it, right?
Yep.
Then you got to, put nutrients in the soil. You got to figure out what it needs. What are you going to grow there? You got to plant it, and then you got to plant it, and then you have to tend to it. Trust me, I've been gardening now pretty steadily for 3 years consistently, and my harvest gets bigger each year. I'm very fortunate to be able to do that, but it is work, and this energy, let's remember this. Taurus is a sensual sign, okay? So the shadow is always the sensual nature, because it's Venus, just getting too caught up and not wanting to indulge itself away. Everything is shiny and bold and beautiful in a Taurus's house. I've never met a Taurus that isn't connected to the earth very much like that. So yeah, I just wanted to say that about Taurus, and it is coming out 2025, but this is what we're dealing with currently for that. The next planet is Neptune, okay, 165 years. It's going to be in Pisces till 2025 as well. So remember, we've got Uranus moving and Neptune moving, but you have what's called retrogrades, which I'm sure you've heard about, but it's where the planets seem to stand still, but it's an optical illusion really from Earth. It's just the way that Earth is rotating and moving. So they appear some to stop. Some even appear to go backwards, but again, it's not really happening. It just appears that way. But the planets do seem to correlate with outer, remember these are the outer planets, so outer collective events in mass, the stuff we see in the universe at large. They do seem to correlate with what these planets, their signatures are and what they're speaking. So you'll have the planet go forward, but then it'll stop and move back, almost to say, nope, I went forward, you got that, but I am going to go back and do this. And, you know, you hear of Mercury retrogrades, right, all the time because it's the fastest planet besides the moon. It's just whipping around the zodiac very quickly. So when it goes retrograde, we notice that because it's a personal planet on a daily basis, like in our own personal life. But when Uranus goes retrograde, or Neptune or Pluto, these longer outer transits, it's lessons for the collective that last years, you know, in many cases. So they're important to look at. So Neptune, 165 years around the zodiac, 14 years in each sign. And I read this about Neptune. Its aspects last about 2 years wherever it goes. So if it's sextiling or it's squaring or it's opposite or it's conjunct, not so much. But the other ones, it definitely will be there for quite some time. So Neptune's cycle represents the sign of Pisces and Cancer, by the way. Esoterically, we'll get into that. But has 4 major aspects to it, and it's at age 27, which is when it's sextiling. Then the Neptune square at age 42, where the square is more challenging energies. And the Neptune trine to natal Neptune at age 55, and the Neptune opposition at age 82. It's going to be coming out of Pisces here pretty soon. And when it comes out of there, where is it going? To the next sign, which is Aries. And that is going to be absolutely incredible to see. What do you know about Neptune? Much? You know much about that planet?
Then we talked about Neptune last time. It's about great change and art and outgoing shit. But also very psychic and dark. Deep, not necessarily dark, but you believe the word you used was deep.
Yeah. Neptune rules Pisces, and it's the higher octave of the moon. So the moon, wherever we have the moon, that's where we're challenged with our emotions. That's where we're, you know, esoterically speaking, the moon, which we're going to be talking about here, is a challenge aspect, because it's where we came in for our soul growth to master emotions and learn them and create alchemy with them, transmute them to the higher octave of Pisces, which is spiritualism. And it is actually the Christos. So any Cancer sign aspect is tied to that Christos energy of Neptune, the most spiritual planet, Pisces, the most spiritual sign, because they're dreamers. And they want to see the whole world cured of all of its ills and everyone well and flowing. And they can live in their imaginations, do incredible artwork, incredible crafting, but you can have a tendency to stay there, which can create a fog, an illusion, and that's the shadowy side of Neptune. But we've had Neptune in Pisces from 2012 to 2025. It will be leaving, like I said, and this is also the Savior, where we get the Savior, the Christos, the Christ, the one who sacrificed for others. That is Neptune as well. So you'll find Cancer individuals with the zodiac often sacrifice for others in the very nurturing, caring way, which is what the Christos energy did. He came to serve and to love and to show what that meant in the larger sense of it all. So I found that pretty fascinating, learning about that today, the whole Christos thing.
That was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but Neptune is water, and you think of it like the sea. You know how you go to the ocean and you set your umbrella up and you get everything going, and then
Neptune's the god of the sea, right?
There you go. And the water comes in, and what does it do? It utterly transforms the beach.
Oh shit!
And that's what Neptune wants to do.
Remember we talked last week about the firmament coming from the waters and all those creation myths, how before basically the world existed, it all came from the waters, especially the dark, deep waters.
That's right. That's right, and that's in the Hermetica, like you said, Corpus Hermetica. That
in the Bible and a bunch of shit.
It is. Yes. Reoccurring themes showing up in many texts covering many cultures and traditions, right? Many different lands having the same repetitive story, but just written with different names. It's just incredible to see that.
Yep.
But listen, Neptune in Pisces is where we're seeing this increased connection to quote-unquote the universe, spirit, the New Age movement. We've had a tick up of all that where people are wanting to know what's going on.
Right.
So that also is Neptune in Pisces, and it can become religious fanaticism. Have we seen any of that? No. There's no religious fanaticism. Not in America.
I was going to say, especially with the New Age stuff, there's been a lot of witches and pagans lately, I've noticed.
Well, yeah, that's really ticked up too. Absolutely. No doubt about it. And there's going to be, whenever, Pisces need to be careful of this. If you've met any of them, they can be so dreamy, and their experimentation with drugs and plant medicine and things like that and hallucinogens is through the roof for the most part, because they want to connect to the highest spiritual level of where you can be. And that's Neptune. It's like touching the very skies itself and the gods. It's psychic energy that is completely spiritual in its most beautiful raw essence. It really is. It's quite. And I have Neptune on my ascendant, so I feel Neptune very closely. I would be what's called a Neptunian, right? All right, let's go to Pluto. I want to go to Pluto, and then we will hand this to you and hear what you got to say about opening us up with the moon. Yeah, Pluto, again, in Capricorn, 24 degrees, does not move hardly at all. So good old Cappy's in there till 2024, and this is where we have what we talked about, the age of Aquarius being ushered in here, because it's going to move into the sign of Aquarius. And Pluto in Aquarius is no joke, because right now with Pluto and Capricorn, remember, that's you listened to this last week. I really hammered this hard, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But it's the transforming of our businesses and economic systems, political parties, methods of government, and the radical changes that we're going to see, right? It was that ruthless pragmatism. It's coming down to saying, look, this needs to be fair. A lot like what we just learned about with Uranus, right? Like, no, we need some equity here. We need some balance. We need to have a right relationship with our money, and we need to be correctly connected to our money, and we need to see money in a universal way. And that doesn't, I can hear all the entrepreneurs groaning and the capitalists, and all that being like, that sounds socialist. Well, what we've had so far hasn't worked because it's placed all the wealth into the hands of a few, and we know this. This is old news, and I don't think this show's about that, but this definitely needed to happen, and this is going to be going on until 2024, and it moves, and then we'll start seeing some building of what was torn down. The other thing I want to bring up is in the United States chart, Pluto is in the 4th house, and we are having what's called in the United States a Pluto return. And that's very rare because it only happens every 248 years. So you'll never see Pluto return in your chart. Yeah, so wherever Pluto is can last a very, very long time. It only moves a few houses and signs per a lifetime, considering you die at 90, right? Pluto has been sextiling Neptune, the previous planet that we just talked about. And so Neptune and Pluto, those are the slowest moving systems that we have, planets, that we have in the solar system. So these aspects, like I said, that's what I was talking about, last a very, very long time. So they're life lessons that you came in with that show up in your chart that you're meant to discover while you're here. So consequently, these longer transits affect our Earth. So from 1940 to 2040, Pluto and Neptune are sextiled, which means they're working together as long as we put the energies together. Well,
interesting.
Pluto is about utter dissolving and death and transformation and going deep, deep down to the bottom, to the bones, the death card, right? We talked about that. And just really understanding the new moon we just had in Scorpio, what's going on here. And Neptune's the highest of the high spirituality. So it's a coming to Jesus kind of thing. I mean, if you really wanted to say it, it's utter shock and awe in your life with Uranus in things mattering, money and possessions in your home where you live, things like that. And putting a spiritual spin on it, causing culturally people to say maybe it's not all about just you and these structures you put up. Maybe we need to start thinking about others more collectively and not so much each guy for his own. And that's kind of where we've been in the Piscean age. Yeah. You want to talk about that? You probably could know some things about that.
That just makes me think of politics, and I don't even want to go there.
I just want to make an edit here. I said that Pluto was in the 4th house of the United States of America chart. That was an error. I meant to say the 2nd house, and the actual Pluto return of Pluto to Pluto is going to be in February. Looks like the 21st, 2022. So that is happening very soon. It is right around the corner.
Pluto's returning home, and that's a powerful event. The last time
in history.
Yeah, we had a revolution. The last time this happened, our country was born. Yeah. No, seriously, that's the truth. That's a fact. So everyone's been talking about this event for years, who's anybody in astrology, and just take a look at it. And of course, where you are in the world is where that's going to show up. But the U.S. chart is the U.S. chart, and it's having its return, and so it's powerful. I don't remember when it goes exact. I think it goes exact, then it backs out, then it goes forward again. But yeah, it's pretty significant, right? Pretty significant.
Damn.
But with that, yeah, that's. Oh, let me read the Sabian symbol. I did want to do that. Let me read it for this Pluto one. So it's Capricorn at 25 degrees. Not Pluto. Pluto's in Capricorn, but at this degree, this is what this means. A customer in an Oriental rug store stumbles against a lump moving under the carpet. A moment later, the scruffy head of her shopkeeper's son pops out from the carpet's edge. childish mischief, stirring up trouble, undermining or subverting, stifling scenes, reframing the official story. That is powerful there, because that's what's happening. We're literally reframing what the quote-unquote official story we've been given. You know, one of the reasons you and I dig deep into esoteric and original stuff is to find the true meanings before they were corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
That's my purpose. That I know there's some things, you know, if we put enough of it all together, there's some beautiful documentaries out there by people that have devoted years of their life. Thank God. It's amazing. And yeah, there's some things that are hidden that are coming to light, showing the official story isn't the official story.
Oh yeah, like I said last week, like I've been doubting all of history lately. Like if you think about apply scientific skepticism to history, we don't know shit.
Mm-hmm. This viewing the adult world as a surreal construction, which frees one to create a world that conforms to one's own desires, joyful, creative participation in the ever-changing kaleidoscope patterns of life. So it's not being, you know, it's like coming at it with a child attitude. Which, boy, that's not easy to do right now, you know. But it's like there's something being born in the middle of all this shifting and reframing that is going to, it says life as a fun house, you know, bring out this joy. And because it's really heavy out there. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. To most people, I'm just fucking around.
Well, I hear you on that. You're right. You're right. Living out one's fantasies, stripping off one's inhibitions, luxuriant revelry. Well, we're certainly seeing that. Most definitely. It ties back to that Uranus in Taurus, which is, you know, Tauruses could be very luxurious and extravagant in their expression of beauty on the earth. Being too close to a situation to see what's going on. So, you know, like, hey, back away from it. See it from another perspective. You're not seeing things, what's really going on. Versus gaining enough distance to recognize its overall pattern. Suffer misadventures when they fail to take account of underlying realities. Seeing the central pattern of one's life and weaving minor strands into one central purpose. Weaving together a series of personal myths and acting them out in real life. That is potent, man.
Wow. When it says failing to acknowledge other realities, that makes me think of the whole spiritual versus physical world balance. You know, like we want to do all this magic, but we got to get our physical life under control. And not only that, there are physical worldly things that affects the outcomes you're trying to affect magically. And the other way around, if you think that the physical world is the only thing that's real, you're also going to have a bad time.
And that's one of the basic premises when you look at the 7 principles.
Right.
And understanding vibration, and understanding how things work, and understanding duality, right? That, this is kind of off track just a little bit, not really, but that water isn't hot or cold, really. It's still water, you're just changing its degree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people have in mind that hot water is a different kind of water than cold water. It's the same water.
Like, point out the spot on the thermometer where hot begins and cold ends.
You can't, right?
It's all temperature.
Exactly. Exactly. So the sky tonight has things tick-tocking right along as, we see these outer planets doing their work, and they're sure, what I read and what I shared with you isn't so much my opinion as it is me knowing the language of astrology and interpreting it, right?
Exactly.
But
I say the same thing about how we read tarot cards, or how I try to read tarot cards to people. I try to get across to them, this isn't my opinion. This is what the symbols in the cards mean when they're combined together.
Right. Like I'm not making this up. This is just as I read it, what it's interpreted and saying. When I do readings for people, I'll share that this is definitely my intuition comes into it, but this is what the card means, and this is how my intuition then connects it in a deeper level. But as of this podcast, the moon is in Capricorn, which we're going to get into next, right? The moon. Yeah. So moon is in Capricorn, and we know Capricorn is what I just talked about in Pluto. It's Earth, cardinal Earth energy. So it's energy that is more concerned about the earth than it is about water or intuition. So it's somebody that doesn't really, we would be talking about things that aren't always easy to understand, Moon in Capricorn is emotions are hard to talk about. Emotions are hard to show. That kind of thing, right? So it's getting into the real meaning of the moon and what's going on with the emotions and then freeing them up. It's really crazy because at the time of this podcast, it is in Capricorn, and that's what it means, and that's what we're really going to be talking about is, how can we use the moon in a practical way? There it is. Great, you have all these lofty ideas about the moon and this planet and yada, 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 but Capricorn would say, okay, how can I take it, because it's 10th house energy where Capricorn rules, and how can I, with Saturn, his planet, how can I put it to work? Oh, one thing I did want to mention is the moon is also, at the time of this podcast, trining Uranus, which we talked about at length is in Taurus. So with the moon, the intuitive moon, in harmonic relationship with Uranus, the revolter and the rebel and the change agent and powerful sky god, you're going to have an interest in metaphysical subjects, and your own instincts and intuition are quite pronounced. So it's going to be energies that are going to allow you to really tap into your intuition with it trining Uranus. So I thought that was interesting, seeing how we're talking about the moon. The moon is also sextiling Neptune. So the outer planets that we talked about, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, two of them come into play with the moon tonight of this podcast. And when the moon sextiles Neptune, I have it trine Neptune, my moon. These are very harmonic energies, and we know, we're going to get into it, but Neptune is a higher octave of the moon. So with them sextiling, they want to work together. And you've got the higher and the lower, you've got some intense, perceptive, and sensitive energies. Like you're able to pick up intuitively on the energies around you. And it also is, moon is the mother, right? The nurturer. Mm-hmm. And Neptune is the savior. So it's wanting, to come in with information that's going to bring a deeper understanding and nurturing of the moon and in your own life, and how perhaps there'll be some healing there with the madre, with the mother, and seeing things differently that way. So, that's all positive right there. So I will hand it over to you.
Okay. So let's start with the Aeon of Isis. Last week we talked about the Aeons, and during the Aeon of Isis, think hunter-gatherer society before agriculture, where food was just popping out of the ground. Babies were just popping out of women. They haven't quite put together that the sun fertilized the earth and the man fertilized the woman. And also, crazy thing, women were bleeding for a week out of every single month. And, back then, bleeding was usually, followed by infection and death. But somehow women were bleeding every month for a week and not dying. Like, that was incredible, and also happened to be in sync with the moon. And this effect is less pronounced today due to all the artificial light at night. But there is still some correlation, according to some stats I've found, between, menstruation and phases of the moon. So this is how femininity became associated with the moon. And even further during the Aeon of Isis, hunter-gatherer societies, because women were the gatherers, they were the only ones who knew which plants were food, which plants were poison, which plants were medicine. So women were basically seen as goddesses walking the earth at this time.
That is fascinating. That makes perfect sense. Like, do we have any idea what time frame in history that is? Like,
the number, agriculture, I mean, like, we're talking about history is so fucking slippery, but I think the official story is agriculture was somewhere around like 10,000 BC. So, like, before 10,000 BC.
Which would make sense why do we have any, this is where I'm not knowledgeable on archaeology that much, but do we have any type of archaeological evidence of women being elevated? You can see where she's lost her appeal, so to speak, and been made subservient through the years.
Oh, yeah, because of the following Aeon of Osiris, of the father, of all the Christian teachings, all that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, keep going. That's good stuff. Sorry, I mean interruption.
I think a good place to go is to talk about, the polarity of the moon, the light moon and the dark moon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a quote from The Mystical Kabbalah by Dion Fortune. Great book. You should all go read it. Is the light of the moon, which is the stimulating factor in these etheric activities. As the Earth and the moon share one etheric double, all etheric activities are at their most active when the moon is at its full. Likewise, during the dark moon, etheric energy is at its lowest, and unorganized forces have a tendency to rise up and give trouble. The dragon of the Klipith raises his multiple heads. In consequence, practical occult work is best let alone during the dark moon by all but experienced workers. The life-giving forces are relatively weak and the unbalanced forces relatively strong. The result in inexperienced hands is chaos. So, I think a good analogy for the light moon and the dark moon, the best analogy has been provided to us by the Greeks with Hecate and Artemis. So Artemis is always in white. She's the virgin. She has these more traditionally masculine view of femininity, righteous, virgin, pure. And Hecate is the dark moon. She's the witch mother. She's the queen of hell. And sometimes these two are syncretized. Sometimes you'll see all of Hecate's symbol appear, but they'll just use the name Artemis. And sometimes all of Artemis's symbols will appear, and they'll just use the name Hecate, because they are both the moon. They're just different aspects of the moon.
That is really true. And the symbology of the moon, is found. It's one of the most universal symbolic pictographs is the moon and the sun. They're very, very popular, so history is replete with them, and we find them everywhere. So We find them attached to the feminine, though, and the yin, feminine, receptive, cool water energy, right?
Right. And when we talk about the Kabbalah at the end, we'll talk about exactly why it's receptive energy.
Right. So with the moon, esoterically, you've got an understanding of it being just like the Western world, the fourth house, the mother. But in esoteric versus Western, it deals more with the soul questions of why am I here? How am I supposed to use this moon energy? Where am I going? What's this traverse about? What's this journey about? What's my north node? These are the questions of esoteric astrology, not so much when will I get a new car, or when will I find love, or what do I do? What do I wear next Thursday to the ball? I'm sorry, but it moves it out of a less, and we need the personal astrology to grow our personality and balance it, but then we need to move to the sixth sense, and we need to elevate towards that spiritual aspiration of, mastery, and that's what alchemy is. At the end, you are the main alchemical wonder. You are the main alchemical magic. Every day, alchemy occurs within you. And the rising and the mastery of your own life is the goal.
You are the lead being turned into gold. Most likely. Hopefully you're not lead. Hopefully you're somewhere in between at least. But if you're an NPC, you're probably lead. There's a lot of those these days.
What did you say?
Oh, NPCs. I'll explain that later. It's a video game thing.
Okay. Okay. So the moon is female yin, receptivity. It's emotions, right? It's also the mother and the nurturing, and it's the fourth house, the immune coli. The innermost part in the natal chart is the fourth house. It's your feelings of how your moon works, is how you feel you belong. Your instinctive habits. And it's also the masses, and it's considered karma, which is very interesting. I thought, why is it considered karma? Why is the moon considered a karmic planet? It's because the moon is tied directly to the mother, which is the home, which signifies a lineage, which signifies ancestry. So your moon's very important in your chart. It's one of the most important placements. So if you have a Cancer moon, like I do, or a Cancer ascendant, like you do, then the moon is going to play very strongly into your life. And it's you've come here with a sole purpose, one of them, to balance your emotions.
To me, it seems like your moon sign is who you really are on the inside, and your sun sign is more like the mask you fit into most easily.
That would be your ascendant, would be the mask you project to others. But the soul, the mask you fit into, I could see that. The soul is, remember, the soul is the sun. It's the yang energy. It's the masculine consciousness energy. The moon is unconscious energy. It's interesting, there's no domination of one over the other, because the sun is masculine yang and the moon is feminine yin, and they're both cardinal.
Right.
Both cardinal. So it's not one over the other. It's a blending of the two. It's a blending of the two. And Cancer, before we talk about the moon, we really got to talk about Cancer for a minute, because Cancer is cardinal water, but she's all about building a foundation. So the moon is about, if think about your emotions and how important it is to keeping a balanced life, or to keeping a foundation in your mind.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a balanced mindset. And this is why mastery of the emotional nature of man is imperative to going to the sixth sense, to going up and out of the five senses and being able to live on the higher plane. Cancer is about compassion, and she's a seed planter, and she's a gardener, and she wants to grow things. This is all moon, and it's the empathetic nature, and it's the psychic. How does my mom always know? Or my mom has eyes behind her head, I swear. You know, or my mom, you know, I was just I told her I called her rather, and she said, I was just thinking about you. Or like, you know, it's that sixth sense that mothers have. That's where we get that from. And it also has a lot to do with boundaries, which I thought there was a whole lot of reading you can do. But look at the moon and how the moon will help you in your understanding of it, get your boundaries in order. Because the shadow side of this moon in the nurturing mother, Christ consciousness sense of things is it can be over motherly and smothering, and
solvent, water.
Right, too much. And it just washes everything away, and there's no substance left. Clingy and possessive, and you know, not remembering that it's meant to be a builder of light. But like you said, you know, I even talked about this here in my notes, there's that dual nature going on, just like you said, so I'm not going to reiterate it. You hit it right on the head. But the emotions, which is what the moon really represents, and getting our balance there, operate on the physical plane, the mental plane, and the spiritual plane. And it's our job, so to speak, to understand how do we balance that? How do we get it into a place that it can be harnessed? You know, emotions are powerful, right? But if you can harness them and you can use them, and understand that, you talked about this too, the moon waxes and wanes, and it has to do with these new moons and these full moons. And understanding the cycles of the moons and the cycle of the emotions. You know, this is why you can feel one way this day and 2 weeks later feel that way. But are you running your life on your feelings, or are you running your life on your mental centeredness, the first law, right? The law of the mental plane.
Moon's always changing.
Exactly. So the moon's a mystery, and there's darkness involved. But, you know, I heard this. I thought it was beautiful. I read, it's called A Pearl in the Black Sea. An eye watching over us, nature's clock. And with the moon always changing, it is the fastest celestial body in the natal chart, okay? It's the right-hand side of the brain here. It's symbols and colors and shapes and sounds and vibrations and the imagination. So it's the slower mind. Sun is the conscious mind. The moon is the subconscious, unconscious mind. And it's the mind that wants to slow down and go in and figure things out. And it's really important in your chart, take a look at what your moon was when you were born. And that is fascinating. But I can come back to that if you want to jump in and share on anything I just said or add anything.
No, that was great. I was just trying to find this quote that I did not find, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I wanted to read this really quick, and it's out of Soul-Centered Astrology by Alan Oken. Highly recommended, A Key to Expanding Yourself. And he's talking about Cancer here. And this is fascinating. You got to think of where Cancer shows up in the wheel. It's the fourth house, right? So we've gone through the first house, which is Aries, the second house, which is Taurus, and the third house, which is Gemini. So you've come through Aries, the fiery urge to be, and the birth of the seed for incarnation on the mental plane. It's the first house. It's where you come in.
First sign zodiac.
That's right. And then the second house, Taurus, is the response of Aries' outpouring energy and the solidification of it and the urge to take form. It's earth-fixed energy, the manifesting on the emotional plane and the desire to be something of substance, second house, earthy. And then Gemini is air, mutable air, and this is the movement of interchange between cause and effect, mind and emotion, and the primal beingness and its response, the activity of the vital life force. So Cancer comes in then being the fourth house, and I thought this was fascinating. So you've got 3 major players already that has shown up, and now Cancer comes in. So Cancer can be seen as the resulting synthesis of these 3 previous stages of unfoldment. It is the integrating culmination for the expression of the urge to incarnate, not just as mind or desire or movement, but in an actual form containing all 3. Cancer is known in the ancient wisdom teachings as the gate in, the place where a physical incarnation is taken for the first time. This should not be mistakenly construed to mean that every person born with Cancer rising, which you are, or Cancer sun, which I am, is incarnating for the first time on Earth. There are many cycles of incarnation, many turnings of the wheel, many mountings on and off of the various crosses. It is rather that an incarnation in Cancer indicates that this is the first cohesive anchoring of the soul in a physical body for a particular cycle of unfoldment. This is one reason why Cancers are always so busy looking for a home, a place to root, a foundation upon which to build future incarnations, and a point on the material plane to which the soul may polarize its presence, thus creating a line of movement for the Antatha Karana. And I'll stop there. But you see how it's actually becoming something of substance once it gets into the fourth house. And it's bringing in, for the first time,
so
birthing something, the mother pregnant with this thing that it's created.
So the implication with Cancer always being occupied with finding a home, I mean that's insinuating to have children, right?
Not necessarily. A Cancer can remain signal, absolutely, but it's going to have that security attached to its home, and it's going to want to put roots and want to nest, so to speak, not so much to birth its own children, but even to nurture other people within that nest, like be a comforter to them.
And this was connected with the idea of being the first incarnation in the cycle. So it kind of sounded like, the first incarnation would, of course, be occupied with generation of continuing the cycle if, you're only the first.
Right. And he goes on to say, like an embryo, Cancer lives in the protective waters of the mother and yet derives her life through the oxygen and the air that we all breathe. The air, of course, comes to it through the umbilical cord. The process of the soul's connection to its physical form does not complete itself until the infant has left the mother and is able to breathe on its own. This breath anchors the soul force into the body, and the process of evolutionary and physical growth continues. And it goes on from there.
It's very important to learn more about these planets by the constellations they are home in their domicile and exalted in. It's hard to explain exactly in words what Cancer being Cancer means about the moon, but it's almost an unconscious understanding. Is of course Cancer is the home of the moon. Like they're so similar and complementary. Of course, Moon is exalted in Gemini, you said, right? Gemini?
Moon is exalted in Cancer. It rules Cancer, and the moon is exalted in Taurus.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
It falls
that's perfect.
in
That's right. The moon's exalted in Taurus because the grounded energy of Taurus provides the perfect balance for the always changing moon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right. Tagging on what you were saying, the moon has this relationship of having to learn how to ebb and flow. So anyone who's born a Cancer, or anyone who has a Cancer moon or a Cancer ascendant, I would say more a Cancer ascendant and a Cancer moon, not even a Cancer sun, because you're putting male energy in the Cancer sun. It's a different signature than the ascendant. It is. Just a different. It's a different signature.
So if you're water and you don't know how to go with the flow, you're fucked.
Yeah, and let me just share a little bit of personal information just quick here. I have all this heavy water Cancer energy, and it was a nightmare to figure that out. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is why I feel qualified, plus my studying and, what I'm doing for my doctorate. But I feel like I'm qualified to talk on these things, having experienced it as well. In my chart, I've got that Cancer sun, Cancer moon. Okay, that's enough in itself right there. Having two strong Cancer. My moon is in Cancer, which it rules. And then a Cancer Venus. So all my luminaries are in Cancer, the strongest planets. And then Cancer North Node, which is your mission, what you need to evolve and grow in here, and what you need to learn how to assimilate now in this incarnation. That's all in a Cancer energy. It's just all tucked together too in conjuncted energy. So I came from a horrible past of abuse. So consequently, if you study the mind of a child, which I've done, and what happens in trauma and what happens in sexual abuse victims and war victims and sex trafficked victims, the mind starts to change and adapt to be able to survive. So the mind is literally altered due to abuse. So unless the person goes in and addresses the mapping of the mind and is taught how to unmap it and rewire it, which you can because it's malleable, then it'll because we operate subconsciously 95% of the time, it will just automatically operate on these triggers of moon imbalance in the emotions. And that's what happened to me until I learned how to go in there and heal. And I used plant therapy and a lot of meditation and mindfulness and other modalities for years to slowly retrain my brain, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, there are ways to learn to control your emotions. Like I'm Cancer moon, Cancer rising. I mean, I had a similar story of just fucked up emotionally, and there are ways to go meditate, go learn pranayama, go die psychedelically a couple times, as many as we're going to get into that in detail eventually. I mean, there's a bunch of stipulations and addendums to that.
Yeah, plant therapy. Yeah. I mean, anything that we say on here is we're a door for something to look into, but that's under a lot of stipulations that we haven't spoken either, which is, don't be stupid about it. There's so much to it, right, than just
we'll get
saying
into
that.
it in full eventually.
Yeah. So what happens here with the moon in esoteric astrology is it is elevated to that higher octave of Neptune. So this is where we want to go when we're looking at the higher octave of the moon in Cancer. And Neptune is, remember, it's that spiritual sign. It's the mystic in reality. It's the one that is seeking the highest truths of things. It's extreme sensitivity, your empaths, your psychics, and it's dreams and visions and illusions. And it's also considered a higher octave of Venus. This is where we see wanting to overdo it with drugs and alcohol and psychedelic experiences where we're totally out of balance. Remember, if you go backwards, Neptune's really the moon. So it may be Neptune, but it's got the essence of the moon's abilities in it. It does. Remember, we transmute it, we bring it in, and we integrate the darkness, like you were talking about. The other side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, black moon Lilith, white moon Lilith. These goddess archetypes, which I'm going to bring in a minute too. I actually have a little write-up on them. But we're aiming for Neptune. We're aiming for the connection with all that is, the highest spiritual plane we can get to. And so if you've come in with this moon being very significant in your chart, it's important to look at the themes, because more than likely Neptune is in a position that is challenging, but is there to help you overcome and balance and all that jazz.
Get your shit together, moon people.
It is. It's about getting your shit together. It really is. And, no longer saying, well, it's just the moon. The moon. And it's like, no. Those days are kind of over. We have too much information out there. And we can learn how to work with the moon and understand that it's very powerful. And understand where it fits in the whole scheme of things. And he says here in this book, the moon relinquishes its control to Neptune when attachment is released from those facets of life ruled by the moon on the personality level. Then the root chakra. Interesting, I have a red candle burning tonight. I talked about that, remember? I don't know if we were recording, but the center wherein dwells the unconscious urge for self-preservation, which is, like the moon, a vehicle for the fourth ray, loosens its dominance as the driving force behind life. The removal, or at the very least, the objectification of the desire to be attached to form, frees the individual in increasing stages towards the identification with the will to be at the crown center.
Fuck. That's a hint to moon people. You gotta not be so attached to everything. It's a key to getting your shit together.
And that's where the boundaries come in. And I gotta tell you, because of the trauma and the abuse that I experienced, I'm not a victim anymore, but it changed my mind, and it caused me to have challenges with boundaries at times. I'm a Scorpio ascendant with Neptune on my ascendant. So we have these, let's talk about this for a minute, these commonalities, like, I know it's a sidestep, but we got to talk about this because it's coming out. In our chart of my chart and your chart, and, how did we connect? How did that even happen? And it's crazy, but if you see the way that the moon energy operates in your chart and my chart, it makes perfect sense. You've got a first house Cancer ascendant, So you guys are going to have to study what the ascendant means, but it's one of the most important houses. It's where you come into the world. What was the sun doing when it was rising in the east? What sign was it on? And for you, it was Cancer. But the moon was home with you in the first house. So Cancer's luminary was traveling with her the day that Anthony was born. Now, I'm a Cancer sun, Cancer moon, like I said. So I always connect to Cancers, it seems. But Anthony's sun was natally in the fourth house of Cancer's home when you were born. And I find that fascinating. The repetitive Cancer signatures. You were in my home. I rule the fourth house as the sun, Cancer sun. And your sun was in my home, which is pretty neat. So it's like, the magnetism was there for us eventually to connect. And I can bet you if I were to put our charts together, I have done that just to kind of see how we would work together. But I would bet you any money there's just huge connection there with speech and Gemini and getting the word out and talking about things and wanting truth to come out and things like that. So,
oh yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, so there's a lot more there about soul-centered astrology, but I do find it refreshingly a more deeper tone, and it seems to really connect to my own journey and what I've been on personally, and balancing this journey of balancing all that heavy water. The feminine movement was, and just the conscious expansion of our ideals of femininity, right? We're under great change during the 70s. So wherever these positions are in our chart, each goddess represents a certain aspect. So Ceres is the north, which in the astral chart is the bottom of the chart, and she's the immune coli. And Ceres, Ceres, is all about the mother. And she is about nurturing and wanting to bring life and health to the home. So it's also food, and it's also gardening and all of that.
Demeter in Greek, right?
Yes, correct. And she's often depicted holding, wheat in her hands and snakes around her. And she's all about helping the child become independent, bringing that kind of responsible nurturing to the child. And she's really the feminine Christos. So, she's that feminine energy. And ironically, in tonight's chart, she is in the 12th house, which is a house about, it's Pisces house, first of all, so it's a very spiritual house. But she's in Gemini, which is air energy, right? Which is speaking. And she's conjunct the North Node. So we are literally talking about the moon, which is really the mother, the nurturer, and the many aspects of that. And it's in Gemini. So it's crazy how literally what we're talking about is coming out to the public. It's right there, which is pretty cool. So she wants to be talked about, and I think that the moon wants, I think it's asking for us to understand it at a deeper level, and to get past just, the surfacey stuff of the moon, but to, what's going on with it and how it operates and how it works in your own chart. So she's a lunar energy of groundedness, of our most inner root systems. Remember the home, that's where that's supposed to take place. Mm-hmm. And she's all about making sure that we're nurtured. So I just wanted to share on that asteroid really quick.
Love me some goddesses.
Hand it back over to you.
The sphere of the moon is YESOD.
Yes.
Magical image to meditate on. A beautiful naked man, very strong. The vice is idleness, virtue, independence, and think of the nines in the tarot, and color in Absoluth is indigo, color in Bria is violet, color in Yetzirah is very dark purple, color in Asaya is citrine flecked with azure. And also the spiritual experience is the vision of the machinery of the universe. And we talked earlier about the receptive energy of the moon. So if you look at the tree of life, the position of YESOD, and also, actually, it's probably best to read the Yetziatric text. 1 second. The ninth path is called the pure intelligence because it purifies the emanations. It proves and corrects the designing of their representations and disposes of the unity with which they are designed without diminution, probably fucked that one up, or division. And the idea here basically is YESOD receives the energy from the other 8 spheres before it and perfects it. Basically, it's the polarity of the moon again, the beautiful, strong, naked man, and the wetness, wateriness of the moon and Cancer. Basically, because you have to be strong to forge those energies, but you also have to be fluid and dynamic. So when YESOD does all that, the output is Malkuth, the earth, the physical world. So YESOD is the astral or the etheric realm. It's the non-physical copy of the physical world. And the moon is a ruler of that, of the etheric activities, as we talked before.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
And yeah, it's feminine because it receives the emanations from, it receives all the other emanations. I apologize.
Well, it's interesting, you know, the moon symbolizes emotions and intuition in the tarot. And this is so feminine. It's like right in your face, kind of. It's like when we look at, and bear with me here, I'm not talking about genders. I'm talking about, and we have to really wrap our head around this because that's really a hot topic.
Right.
But feminine, you know what I'm saying.
Is not equal woman. Masculine energy.
Thank you. Not in esoteric teachings. That is correct. That is absolutely correct. So I'm talking feminine and masculine here. So our emotions are an inner reflection of our worldly experiences. So for a woman, it's easy for her, like the difference between masculine and feminine is the feminine energy is going to feel it and receive it, and it's going to be internal, whereas the masculine energy expresses. And it's the constant process of beginning this energy and then thrusting it out, and then beginning this energy and then thrusting it out. And, you know, how you feel the energy to begin with. What is your femininity like? Everyone has feminine and masculine within them. I am a Jungian at this point. I follow along his line of thinking and his psychoanalysis and his breaking off from Freud and his reason for doing it and all of that. I really am on board with him. And we have to get beyond, again, just seeing ourselves as one gender. When we're not. It's the yin and the yang that lives in each of us. And the moon shows us how we express that emotional energy. And we need both, right? We need both. We need the sun.
Well,
And
everyone is both by default. Your feminine part is your body. Even
that's
if you're a
right.
man, your body is a feminine principle. Your soul is the masculine principle, the non-physical part that embodies your body. Even if you're a woman, your soul is considered your masculine principle. That's what it means to be a hollow fractal universe when they say shit like that. Like, what does that actually mean? Well, when you watch those videos, the endless fractals, no matter how far deep down you dive, you see the same exact patterns. So
Yeah.
no matter, there's a feminine and a masculine, there's your body and your soul, and then there's feminine parts of your body, and there's masculine parts of your body, and there's feminine parts of your soul and masculine parts of your soul. No, like, no matter what you choose, there's feminine and masculine parts of everything, and it goes down endlessly.
Well, that's interesting because that really has to do with duality, unless I'm going along the wrong lines here. And I only thought that duality existed on Earth in the 3D reality.
Oh no, duality, I mean, at least Kabbalistically, duality exists after the first division. I mean, the one separates itself into Chakma and Bina almost immediately. And Bina is the great mother, and
Right.
and Chakma is the father, but also hermaphroditic because it hasn't completely divided yet. But it's still mostly masculine in the way it's depicted. So, and that's, you know, above the abyss, that's nowhere near physical incarnation.
Right. Okay. Well, it's interesting. You know, the moon card, you talked about it being number 9.
Yes, and YESOD is the 9th sphere.
Right. Right. And the moon card in the tarot is 18, which we know we reduce to a common denominator, and that is 9, which signifies completion in the material sense. And, you know, 9...
Right. And the path from YESOD to Malkuth, the universe card, we know that's about completion.
Right.
Because YESOD, it changes and forms all the energy from all the other spheres and completes it in the physical Malkuth.
Right on. Well, in the moon card, number 18, if you get a chance, take a look at that. The moon card is a representation of Pisces. So esoterically, they caught this in the tarot. They gave Pisces to the moon, which you would think it'd be Cancer, right? No, they knew. And they gave it to Pisces, which is the 12th sign, which is where Sirius is sitting in Gemini. And we're talking about her. It's that intuitive, Pisces, that intuitive, empathetic, perceptive, understanding, imaginative, creative, wise, generous, mysterious, adaptable, sensitive nature. Highest octave of the moon is Neptune, and obviously that's Pisces sign. So they all tie in together, but the moon card symbology is fascinating in the Smith-Waite deck. There's a lot of hidden layers there, but you know, the moon is the shadow self. We have to remember this. In esoteric tarot, the moon, again, it's a challenging planet. It's needing to move to Neptune. Neptune for Cancerians are very, very important in a chart, extremely. So that's just a tip. Find out where that is, because the moon card, you probably have some feelings on the tarot and the moon, but it is darkness. It's illusion. It's the unconscious, right? It's not, you get that card and it's like, you know, balance things. You're really probably not seeing things clearly. Pay attention to your gut and your dreams, right? And
oh yeah. In the Thoth deck, the moon is attributed to Pisces, and the illustration is it's Anubis on both sides. And basically what you're looking at is the path to the underworld. So it is definitely the dark side of the moon. It's the the descent into the underworld and then your death and rebirth.
Right on. And then...
Oh, shit. And it's very interesting because in myth, Hecate, the dark moon, what does she do with Persephone as she goes down to the abyss? Not to the abyss, to the underworld, as they call it in Greek. She guides Persephone and keeps her safe in the underworld. She's the guardian between worlds.
That's right. That's why Pluto is associated with her in Scorpio and Cancer. But yes, and she holds the torch. She is the light bearer. No doubt about it. And, you know, she is the mother of demons in that she has rulership over them.
Yep. I mean, how are you going to be the protectress of children and family if you don't have teeth?
No, and they're, you know, I wrote recently somewhere, I don't remember where it was, but I talked about her. I was doing a bio on her a bit, and I just said, you know, they're muted, even in her presence. They're muted. They're silenced. They know, because she's the mother of them, archetype, and she doesn't play, and she doesn't mess around, and she wants to bring the rawest truth to the darkest places within you. She is for the underdog, the rebel, the one who needs the light. You know, even the Master Christ himself said it isn't the healthy who need a doctor. Right. So she's not going to be for everybody. She's going to be, you know, someone to be feared by ignorant people that don't know her deeper meaning and what she stands for. And of course, she is a huge representation of the moon, as she's the triple goddess, the past, the present, and the future, wanting to help you assimilate your past, to bring you to the ever-present where change can be made so that you will have an enlightened future. She's not about control. She's not about possessing you. She's about informing you and helping you in the Plutonian way, which is not easy, to see the true light of things. That's how I see her, how she works for me, around me, as she sits at 26 degrees on my 26-degree sun of birth. So there's no way she's not going to be a part of what I'm supposed to be talking about. And it's the shadow worker. It's the one who will go down in the cave with others and sit in the darkness and the stench and be like, you know what? You're down. I'll just sit with you for a while. I can't stay because this is not a place that I feel is healthy. But you're here, and I'm not going to judge you. And it's just, you know, showing the light. Really, also, ironically. Yeah, go ahead.
She's also deeply connected to nature. Because in the myth, when Persephone gets abducted, no one hears a thing. No one knows a thing. But Hecate in her cave just fucking knows.
Yeah, that's true.
Goes after it.
Yeah, we need to do a whole episode on her, don't we?
Yeah, we'll get to it. A lot of stuff to get to.
So, in tarot, getting back to that, the moon card's associated with the Greek goddess Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. Did you know that?
Yes, it was very interesting. I actually heard there was this documentary on ancient people, and before, not ancient people, I'm sorry, modern people living almost anciently as nomads, and they asked them what the moon meant to them. And the only thing they said was, if the moon's not out, you can't hunt at night. I mean, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, I mean, that's as far as it goes. I mean, that's the most basic thing about the moon.
Yeah, and you know, it is the luminary that is out every day like the sun. It's constant. And its cycles are reliable. Like, it has a pattern and a cycle, and that's really important it shows the nature of the journey, that it's not going to be full and bright, and it's not going to be dark either, all the time. There's going to be this ebb and this flow. It's such a
That's why you
parallel
can't be attached to things.
Right. Very good. Well, the Romans knew her as Diana, and her hounds accompanied her as she chased playfully through the skies with her twin brother Apollo, god of the sun. I am quoting Tarot and Astrology, great book by Corinne Kenner, Tarot and Astrology. Want to give credit, don't want to be, acting like these are all my words, but where they're directly quoted, I shall say so. So what do you know about Artemis? Artemis.
Yeah, I mentioned Artemis earlier as the full moon and how she's synchronized with Hecate, and I was going to say it's interesting because Hecate is also associated with dogs, and the explanation I've heard for that is because Hecate comes when called, basically. She's very easy to contact, apparently, so I've heard. Even if maybe you're devoted to her and you haven't been that serious lately, if you need her, she still comes when called. And that kind of makes sense that the moon is almost always out. It's always there. Almost kind of like a dog. It's always like right there.
Right. And it's like out, like when I see the moon, it's almost like things are normal. It's in the sky. You know what I mean? When it's not seen, I know now it's the new moon, and it's getting ready to change and shift and go into a new sign. But it's just comforting. There's just something about it. It's reliable. It's always there, and it's like a part of our pattern as humans. I think we're deeply, deeply interwoven. We know biologically we are. There's an argument for that, of course, and then we also know psychologically
just
it impacts you.
Look at her.
Yeah, I mean, it's round like a woman, and
right.
Roundness for being pregnant and full, and then giving birth and waning, right? The whole thing, the changing of nature, of existence in the cycle of our lives. It moves every 2.5 days through a sign. It zips around the zodiac in 28 days. It's fast. So this is why the moon is so important, because it's like whoever created this astrological wheel and all of it, truly the hand behind the hand behind the hand,
Hermes is accredited to have done it.
To astrology, yeah. Totally knew the importance of how we need to go through all the zodiac every month. Like we're going through it, and it's amazing if you start tracking it, not in an anal way, like every second. That can get weird, but like if you kind of know what the moon's doing that month.
Fractal universe.
Yeah. But if you did
12
that,
signs every year, and then each of the 12 months you go through the 12 signs.
Right, and then the moon goes through every month each sign.
That's what it means to be a fractal universe.
Right. 28-day cycles. And that's typical of a woman's menstrual cycle, by the way. So it's linked to pregnancy and childbirth. And again, I think everything intuitive and everything internal and sensing and feeling and knowing, and that psychic maternal nature, like you just know that you know. So, yeah. I've been fascinated with the moon my entire life, and I never really understood it. I didn't know why until I left that whole other role and started getting into naturopathy, and which led me into holistic modalities, which led me into Reiki, and then mindfulness and Tarot. And that led me to astrology, and it just like this has been 10 years now out of Wall Street, baby. Just like, what? Mind blown. Just so much information, but it's been incredibly rewarding, right?
Of course.
cheers to the ones that want to know and seek for answers to questions. Because, I think, all things esoteric, what's that about? It's about things that are hidden. It's knowledge that you don't talk about every day, and we want to bring it to the forefront, and we want to bring out these books and these teachings because, and we want to talk about it in a casual way. We don't want it to be like a history lesson or a course or something. Those are great and they have their place, but we're more like day-to-day living in life. And, how do you handle this moon? Is there anything else you want to say about the moon, man, before we talk about, like, practical
Well, I was going to
wisdom?
say about the esoteric, why we focus on that. I mean, me personally, the exoteric version of things is why I thought it was all bullshit. I mean, with astrology, too. I mean, if you just look at, the base level horoscopes that are, like, in the newspaper and shit that just only go off of the sun sign, everyone thinks astrology is bullshit because the sun sign is such a broad fucking generalization, but it turns out it matters where every planet is in every fucking, where every zodiac sign is, and the planets are in the signs, and the planets are in aspects to each other's, and there's asteroids, and there's so much more data that accounts for all the variations in an individual human than just the sun sign. And I talked about how the base level exoteric spirituality that's available in America, of course, is why I was an atheist until, I was like 20 years old. But shit, it's so crazy that it almost makes me think that the exoteric version is put out there on purpose to throw people off because it's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You mean the Western version, not the esoteric. The Western version is the shallow version.
Yeah, the exo.
Sun,
the exo, not the eso.
exo, pardon me. Correct. I've got you. Yes, sir. EXO. I got you. Yeah, I think it is. And I think I read that somewhere. Oh, my goodness. I don't remember where I read it. All the stuff we read. But that it's part of getting people to... It's like, why do we have mindless television, right?
It's programming.
Why do we have all these distractions for the five senses, Why do we have things that keep men dull? Right, exactly. It's to keep us off the true path.
I mean,
and this is why it was bastardized so much within the Christian realms. And,
right.
We're going to have a podcast on the Bible. We need to talk about what you've learned and what I understand. And again, not forming anyone's opinions, just check it for yourself. Study the language of astrology and then pull your chart and be like amazed at what you find. Because it's too reliable as a science. It just is. And it was meant to. We were meant to know it, but it was taken from us. It was taken from us, Anthony. I'm telling you. It was just taken right out of our hands. No, it was.
Goddamn
and then
Romans.
Bastardized. Oh, God. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to do that. Let's have one of those broadcasts. But we're still on the moon. What else we got on the moon? Anything else you want to add to the moon? The wonderful,
no, that's
round, glorious moon.
She's fucking sexy, and everyone should look at her every night.
She is. She's rather beautiful. And, again, deeply attached to the moon. But let me share with you, this feminine energy is not easy to master when you have heavy feminine in your chart. So I'm kind of speaking to that group, or people that struggle with the feminine, even if you sense that, maybe you're masculine gender-wise, okay, in your body, and you're open now to being like, okay, I guess, I'm open to saying I have some feminine energy inside of me, and that perhaps maybe it hasn't been balanced. So I guess, it applies both ways, but it's something that, for me, and I'd love to hear what you have to say, Anthony, but for me, I had to do it on my own and just get into a place where I could hear intuitively that inner voice that is present in each of us that knows the way. And the reason that we don't hear it and the reason that we're not connected to it is because we've not been taught, right? We've not been taught how to connect to the moon and our intuitive nature. This is one of the most important planets we're going to be talking about, that and Neptune. Yep. We're just not.
That's a big part of it.
It's been taken from us, and we don't know how to approach it, and it can feel weird. But farmers plant their crops to the moon.
Fuck yeah.
They plant their crops to the moon cycles, and there's something to it. So it's a big deal, the moon, and understanding her.
If you get into alchemy, I mean, even magic, I mean, it's really just, if you want to do things magically, you time everything based on the planetary day of the week or the planetary hour. You know, if you're planting a moon crop, you know, you want to do it on a moon day, preferably in an hour of the moon, which is the first hour of sunlight, or there might be a second moon day depending on how much light you have, and there's calculations, I mean, moon hour within the moon day, and, you know, so on. Same for an alchemical experiment. I mean, in my mead making, I try my best to only, you know, re-rack and do, you know, anything with it on Sundays, because mead, the honey and bees are associated with the sun. So it's really, if you just want to put a, you know, magical perspective on things, basically.
That's beautiful. I am smiling because I just stumbled across the Goldsmith's revised Sabian symbol for our moon, which was in Cancer for this nightly podcast. Let me read this. This is the Sabian symbol for the moon, or 14th degree of Capricorn. So the moon's sitting, we already know about the moon, right? The moon is sitting in Capricorn. So it's got the shell of Capricorn on it. Inside it's still the moon, but it's going to look like Capricorn. Here's what that has to say. Now Capricorn's what? It's the 10th house, remember? Career.
Yep, very unfeeling. The moon, emotions, and the sign of no feelings, basically.
It's the opposite of Cancer. So they're always opposite in the chart. And every single sign has a what? A polarity, a dual nature. So it's the opposite. So think of the opposite of what we just talked about. It's earth energy, which, okay, earth and water go good, but it's earth, and it's cardinal as well. And it wants to move out, like the goat. Having removed the vines and debris covering an ancient monument. You can't make this up, Anthony. Are you ready? Two scholars began a lengthy argument over the correct translation of its hieroglyphic inscriptions.
You said that's for our degree?
No, that's for the moon, the 14th degree of Capricorn, which is what the moon's in.
Ah, got it.
For the podcast, for tonight.
That's funny.
Language as the basis of one's reality picture, whether it is the natural language of science, the revealed language of religion, or the symbolic language of art. Originating or translating a language. This is exactly what we've been doing in those categories. Deciphering versus encrypting. So we're deciphering it. We're taking out that which has been hidden, and we're getting it out of its encryption. Scientific attempts to arrive at the one correct interpretation versus the acceptance of the interpretive ambiguity. Existential questions about the mysteries of life Do we impose meaning onto nature, or is there an intrinsic meaning embedded in the structure of the universe? Oh man, that's some deep shit. Cutting through a tangle of myths to uncover the truth. Catching out other people in lies and inaccuracies, which is what we said. Remember?
I'm calling you the fuck out.
Deep versus superficial readings of reality. Creating a new formulation that undermines the old paradigm, abandoning outdated positions and building on a more solid foundation, which is the mother, which is the moon, which is the home.
Fuck yeah.
Bam. Bam, bam, bam. There it is. You gotta get fired up about that. Can you believe how deep that is? That she channeled that? That's exactly what's going down. That's powerful.
Makes me want to channel some shit.
It had a high energy on it, didn't it? Like cutting through a tangle of myths to uncover the truth. I mean, what are we about? What are we trying to do here?
How many myths did I mention?
Right?
Like 2.
Abandoning outdated positions.
The whole Uranus and Taurus thing.
Building on a more solid foundation, the moon. The mother wanting a solid foundation. Yeah,
Getting your shit the fuck together.
Well, it is, and let's talk about really quick how you manage and balance your daily world. Because one of the ways that we started talking was our love of the tarot, and we had talked and how, for me personally, it really helped me, see the different types of the personality and how they interact and interwork in daily situations that have to do with very practical things. Because it's just a personality wheel.
I started learning about tarot and astrology around the same time. And now when I meet people, like I can kind of tell, like they're kind of fiery, they're kind of watery. And don't you know, I mean, if you look at their chart, it usually lines up pretty well.
And the reason that they bastardize this, you guys, and again, we're just a door, but I'm inviting you, to, if you're going to defend your beliefs, which you have every right to, know your enemy then. And study them. And I think what will happen is, what happened to me, is in your studying of trying to disprove it, you end up going, what is this? This is crazy. Why haven't I been told this? And you'll see how it all works together as one, and how something was locked away from you. And I don't worship astrology or worship tarot. I use it as a tool for my intuitive nature to guide me. Does that make sense?
Channel Satan.
Oh, no. I don't particularly channel that. You're so ridiculous.
I mean, that's not what I say. That's what people say.
No. Yeah, that is what people say. And, you have to ask yourself, just wait a minute. Why, if you give it a fair shake and you just work with a deck of cards, it'll be crazy how you'll understand. And what I mean by that is, shuffle the deck, cut the cards, whatever, and pick a card and then put the deck away. And for a week, just put that card around you and, study it. Study what it means. And just journal it and see what happens. And what happened to me is I began to see how certain cards kept coming up no matter how many times I shuffled and cut them. You ever have that happen? It's crazy.
Yeah, like over the course of a bunch of readings in the same day, sometimes it seems like the same card pops out. They are magnets for energy.
That's interesting.
And I bet if you looked at the astral chart of the day and what card keeps popping up, I bet there'd be some correlation. That'd be interesting the next time you notice that.
Oh, yeah. I use an astrology tarot. I just love it. Huge shout out to Galaxy Tarot. It's a wonderful app. They're not paying me to say that, but it's excellent, and I refer to it all the time because I'm trying to master the deeper hidden meanings of the card as well, because you miss about, anywhere from 10 to 20 other layers that are important to understand about the true meaning of the card. They were brilliant. All of the people that have ever attempted to do a legit tarot deck have brilliant minds, because
that's
a lot of layers.
Crowley, just try to understand the Book of Thoth. Unless you're a fucking scholar in these kind of things, you're not going to understand what he's saying.
Well, I kind of think that things call you, and if it calls you, then there's this.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason, and understanding comes. Yeah. And for me, I'm not a big rule person at all. Actually, it annoys me really bad. I have Uranus on my midheaven.
That's the pan energy in us too.
It really irritates me, man, because it's like this. You ever go join a group and they're like, read the rules, and it's
if there's even one rule I don't like, I am out.
I don't even. It's control. Okay, it's control. Listen, here's the thing, and I'm going to say this. Okay, here it is. If you need somebody to tell you how to be a decent human being, I don't think you should be on Facebook.
If you're on Facebook and you're asking people how to do anything, unless you've gone through every last possible option, unless you've fucking people, man.
Listen, we should talk about that. We're deciding to come off Facebook, right? Aren't you deciding? Well, you're gonna stay on for just a few things. I got you on that. But somebody's telling me to come off Facebook. Listen, man, you guys should email us. We'd love some engagement. We're at allthingsesotericpodcast@gmail.com. And what would you like us to talk about or clarify, right?
Yeah, and you can comment on the audio platforms too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And in a minute, tell us where we're all at. But having said that, I made an error last week. I want to make sure I correct. When I was talking about the sun, I said the sun in the 9th house. I inadvertently said that because my mind was going so quickly, and my sun is in the 9th house. So it was like I just put them together. But the sun can be anywhere in your chart, obviously. But I just want to say I'm sorry about that. Made an error. But anyway. So back to you. What were we talking about?
Oh, you just wanted me to say where we can find the podcast?
Yes. Let's do that.
Pretty much everywhere except Apple. We're having problems with them. We're working on it, but Spotify, Amazon, what's the other big one? There's 12 other ones, but YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, if you want to go on the video platforms and whatnot. Pretty much everything except Apple, wherever you listen to podcasts, not Apple.
Oh, you still haven't gotten that figured out, eh? What's going on with that?
I think that customer service lady was bullshitting me. She said, because we can't accept the terms of service, it's fucked up on both of our computers. We both tried it. There's no way or where to accept it. And 2 weeks ago, she told me that, it's a known issue. They're working on it. But it's been a week and a half, and I feel like if they were working on it, if you can't accept the terms of service, they can't get new active users. That would be fixed in an hour with such a giant company. I feel like that lady on the phone was just bullshitting me to get me off the phone because she didn't know what to do.
Okay, so why don't you put it out there? Maybe somebody could email us and has an answer to it. We'd really appreciate it. We're trying to agree to the legality aspect of having a podcast with Google, right?
Yeah, if we can't accept the terms of service, just a general Apple terms of service,
Apple.
we can't make our Apple ID active according to them. And if we can't make our Apple ID active, we can't get on Apple Podcasts.
Okay, yeah. So if anybody knows how to, if anyone's had that problem, like you saw, actually, you went to try to find information on it, and you saw where other people had the issue, right?
Yeah, but it was like years and years ago. Like, I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, I wanted to talk about the cycles of the moon and why that's important just for a minute. Can I do that?
Sure.
Because we're talking about day to day and what can we do as far as, what's a helpful thing we can do. And one of them is to understand what new moon cycle we're in and what full moon cycle we're in, just those two. Because if you look at a chart, and you can just go to videos on YouTube, and just type it. So many people are doing beautiful work out there. It's incredible, right? We're so blessed. Take advantage. It's all good. They put the chart up and they explain it. Everyone's got their own way of doing it. Wherever you're drawn is where you should go. But if you find, like, you take the time at the beginning of the month and say, okay, where's the new moon this month and what the hell does this mean? And choose a shorter video, like under 30 minutes and under.
Just go to Kate's videos. They're the best.
Thank you. I'm trying to shorten mine because I know they were kind of long-winded. I'm like, man, I got to just shorten this jank stuff up.
That's why I told you to just start a podcast.
Right on, brother. Right. Well, anyway, there is a moon coming up you need to be aware of. And again, I'm telling you now so you can prepare and just start reading about it. And then when this moon comes up, just work with it. Take a glass jar and put your favorite crystal in the bottom. Beautiful one to put is rose quartz or a moonstone or labradorite or selenite. These are all of the stones for the moon. They're easy to get. You can find them. They're popular. So you put it in there. And then you put it under the full moon. And it's important that you leave the lid off. So, and glass, no plastic. And this is something practically, if you start to do this and you get serious about it and find out what the new moon is, like we just had the new moon in Scorpio, I talked about it last week, or go online and look, and you can find what it's about. And just take one thing from it. That your intention is, this is a new moon, I'm going to begin to ... And then drink that water. Every time you drink it, take the crystals out and any bugs or anything that might have gotten in there. And then you drink it. And you drink it with thanks. And I'm telling you, the moon, there is a moon magic that is real that we've been lied to about. And I know that sounds weird, but it really can start to transform you. I've been doing this. It's been changing me. I also put crystals out on new moon and full moon. So this is something you can do on a practical level and start to get in a tune with it. And remember, for anything to become a habit, it takes 6 to 8 weeks of repetition. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't do it once and then be like, that doesn't work. That's just stupid. You can't, one must apply, just like the Taurus, Uranus is trying to get us to do, some fixed energy and push and be, Taurus is the bull. Close your eyes and see the bull on Wall Street. That's Taurus. Got some strength to him.
I also recommend just staring at the moon. I mean, if you stare at the moon long enough, you will get a deeper connection to it. It's hard to explain exactly with words.
I've been a moon child my whole life, and I admit that I did not have my moon under control. I was a wild thing. I just was, and because I was so hurt. And I was just really hurt. I was devastated by what occurred to me, and it was like, oh my God, I ended up just performing and having to be the top and the best. everywhere I went in my career, instead of really nurturing why I felt the need to have to be hyper secure. I was just, a lot of people who have, like, talking again about trauma and the moon, this is very important, because your moon it represents the mother in your chart, in your intuitive nature. So, but we are having a lunar eclipse coming up, and we are having a Beaver full moon on November 18th or 19th, depending on where you live, 2021.
What's a Beaver full moon?
A Beaver full moon. Okay, so the beavers are storing up their houses, and they're finishing all that up before winter. So it's a time to be busy like a beaver, and to pack everything in and get everything organized and everything as it should be before the winter.
Interesting.
And it says on timeanddate.com, November Beaver moon. Full moon in November is named after beavers who build their winter dams at this time of the year. And it's got the cutest little beaver picture. Go on it just for the beaver picture, man. I'm from the north, from Wisconsin, and we used to go to the Beaver Dam where we could walk over it. It was incredible, y'all. I mean, I'm talking wild out there on four-wheelers, and God only knows what else was out there. We've had some crazy times out there, way out there. But anyway, it's also called the frost moon and the morning moon. Aw. So it's like this moon that's like, okay, I haven't looked at the chart yet. I need to do that, but I'll be doing a video on it more than likely. Get a short one out there. But you can watch it live on this website, timeanddate.com. So, very important when moons come up to just watch them and be in touch with them, because I think that it's not random, the cycle that the moons are in, how they're in them, the degree that they're in them. And that is just a practical thing that you can do. And you're like, well, what benefit does that bring you? I think it brings you peace of mind. When you begin to see a rhythm and a pattern to life, you can begin to rely upon those energies. You become more connected with that which is above. See, we've done a lot of so within, so without, so within, so without, and we've forgotten to go above. This is what I'm about. I'm that light bearer, the Christos energy, the higher octave moon Neptune, who's now balanced and centered her energies. I'm the crone that has arrived to prepare the way for Aquarius. And you are, I don't know, you'll have to tell us what you are. What are you, Anthony?
Everything and nothing.
Oh, do tell. We got to wrap this up. Give us a tip, man. But first, tell us about how you're everything and nothing.
No, I was just fucking
while I eat my grapes. No. It's true.
I strongly believe in the third, all the essential characteristics in Buddhism. However, specifically, the third characteristic of the universe in Buddhism is about ego. How you shouldn't be attaching all these things to your ego. The only thing you truly are is consciousness. And underneath that, many Buddhists will argue, is nothingness, emptiness. So, really, I was kind of fucking around, but literally we are everything and nothing, because we are a microcosm of the universe, but underneath the universe, essentially, is nothingness.
Listen, I think Elon Musk is going to get us to the freaking outer limits.
I think he's going to trap our souls.
No, he's not. I watched a video on him today.
Neuralink is going to destroy our psychic
I saw
abilities.
Neuralink, man. I saw that. But he isn't just doing Neuralink.
If we upload ourselves, our consciousnesses into computers, I don't think it's going to work.
I'm not talking about that.
Bad shit's going to happen.
I'm talking about physically going to Mars on a space station and living out there. Listen, you know that if you go out there, you're going to learn about other shit, and you know it, and you're going to see stuff. Fucking shit's going to happen, man. I want to go. I want to go. I do. I want to go. I'm ready. Not like, I hate Earth, my life sucks. No, I have an amazing life. I have an amazing life. I do. No, I'm not being, I'm just saying, I'm very fortunate. I'm very loved. And I don't take that lightly. I am protected. I am grateful. So no, I would miss what I have here. But I've tasted her. I've tasted Earth. I've tasted her fully, her ripened fruit that has dropped off of the trees of life about me.
Damn, this is a family program.
It's been, no, it's not. It's been wonderful. Wonderful. But I've also had her sour roots and weeds that I lingered in at times I shouldn't, and I learned and I grew. So I've tasted and touched all the senses here. You know, Marilyn Monroe said this, and she had Neptune on her ascendant. And she said, when they asked her about plans in life or something about a movie, she was just like, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm a real person. So I have Neptune on my ascendant. Do you know how challenging that is? It's draped on my very personality. So anyone who has that, please email me. If you have Neptune on your ascendant, yeah, that's a tough ride. Because whatever you have in the ascendant is very personal, and you have your moon there. Anthony, that's huge. Feminine's dripping all over your ascendant. When you took your first breath, the moon was right there with you.
I feel it.
You do feel it.
It's still with me.
This is from, I'm not making this name up, You Mix. You as in unicorn.
No, leave it in. Leave it in.
Oh my God. Control myself here, man. This is just too fucking funny. Okay. Umic.edu.
.edu? What?
Okay. This is off a website called umic.edu.
Okay, I don't get it.
UMICH. It was just really difficult to say. That's all. Very challenging.
I thought it was something absurd.
Well, I thought it was like German at first. You know, I wasn't sure what it was trying to do. All right, here we go. It says the moon is a feminine symbol, universally representing the rhythm of time as it embodies the cycle. The phases of the moon symbolize immortality and eternity, enlightenment or the dark side of nature herself. It might reflect inner knowledge or the phases of man's condition on earth, since it controls the tides, the rains, the waters, and the seasons. It is the middle ground between the light of the sun and the darkness of night, and thus often represents the realm between the conscious and the unconscious. In astrology, the moon is a symbol of the soul, and in the horoscope, it determines the subject's capacity for reflection and adaptation. That's the key word. Adaptation. Like, that's alchemy.
With the flow.
That's alchemy. You know.
Water.
It's saying, okay, I can adapt. I can be mutable. I can flow. I'm not going to be fixed and stubborn. I'm going to be able to transmute. Perform alchemy with my life. My very life will be an alchemical story of wild, abandoned, fun, creative breaths. You know, the breathing in and the breathing out like the moon.
Nice.
It is the middle ground between the light of the sun. Oops, I read that. In astrology, the moon is a symbol of the soul, determines capacity. Okay, it also provides analogy for the stages of human development. The new moon is infancy. The crescent is youth and adolescence. The full moon is maturity and pregnancy. And the waning moon represents the decline of life and sleep. So there it is. Deeper symbology on umic.edu. But hey, what do you do to manage, like, seriously, that did help me manage my moon and my tides, and understanding that, you know, I'm in control of my emotions, not anyone else. And autosuggestion is legit. And meditating with the moons, and like, that shit works. Learn about it. Reprogram your mind. Reprogram your mind. You can do it. Like, you hold the keys. Look down and look. You have red, ruby red slippers on. You do. Click those heels. You already have the truth. You already know the way home. You have the answers. They're within you. And the moon will get you there. Won't she?
Isn't it interesting that on psychedelics, when you feel like you kind of learned something, it doesn't really feel like you learned something. It feels like you just remembered something. I mean, that's a lot of people describe that. I've experienced that.
Yes. I would have to say that's true. I just, incredible how plant therapy can help your mind. And, you know, I have no problem talking about microdosing at some point, and the psychological benefits and practical advice and tips.
Macrodosing. Do drugs.
Sure. Okay, so you'll talk about the macro. See, this is where we're different, folks. People. Oh, I shouldn't say folks. It probably sounds like I'm calling all the boomers of the world, and I don't know. You know. What are you in anyway?
What is your? Okay.
Oh, thanks. What is your demographic that you fit into with your age group? What are you? Are you a Zoomer?
I always see a few different dates for the generation. It's either I'm either the oldest millennial. No, I'm either the youngest millennial or the oldest Gen Z. I'm like right on that.
Gen Z. I'd put you in with Gen Z, totally, absolutely.
96.
It feels you. Gen Z, it just feels you. Millennial definitely is not you. No. Child, you've got this young energy about you. That's all sprinkly and spritey and moving and wonderful. No. You're not no millennial. No. It's interesting, though. We should do a show on that, too. That would be great. Talk about all the different separate pieces of society that we've put in little slices and we've labeled them as if they're like, I don't know, it's crazy how we do that.
That's why labels are bad. Listen to the Buddhists.
Labels are really bad. I hate labels. So maybe we shouldn't do that.
Listen to the fucking Buddhists, you fucks.
Oh my God. Listen, people are not going to take your advice. Oh my God. Okay. I feel like I should say, I do not endorse this. Like one of those warnings.
Hey, you told me to listen up.
Listen, you do you, boo. Okay? No, you do you. And I know what I know. You damn right you should have fun, because that's what it's about. I know what you mean, though. I do. So listen, you know what we have the capability of doing?
Talking around.
We can do a live show and have callers.
We could. We could.
Like what we could do.
That might be a disaster, though.
No, brown cow.
We'll see.
We never, ever have disasters. I felt like Mary Poppins when I said that.
And I think that's a great way to end it.
You know, I'm really sorry that I'm laughing so hard.
Don't be.
I just had, here's what happened. Here's what happened. Just bear with me. In the podcast tonight, Pluto, which doesn't move. If we were to look at the house, I had to take a deep breath. Oh my God. Oh man. Pluto is in Capricorn, but it's in the 8th house. And you know about the 8th house, right?
No, I don't know about the houses like you do.
All right.
I haven't studied the houses.
Pluto runs Scorpio. Always important to look at the ruler of planets and vice versa. The 8th house is where Scorpio lives originally. But Capricorn is there. So Capricorn's knocking on Scorpio's door, probably trembling in his boots, because he's coming to the female 8th house of the underworld. And he's an earth builder of structural things. He doesn't go down under only to dig for oil, for money. He's Capricorn. He's not interested in getting down there in the mines and the muck of it all. No. He's the engineer. He's the architect, the mathematician. Saturn is his planet after all. He's one disciplined dude. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So you're not going to Scorpio's door. Yeah.
No, we'll get into it.
And when you add Pluto being home in the 8th house, this is in our chart. Like, this is 8th house matters, which is where the esoteric world lives. Pluto is tied heavily to the occult, to hidden things, because it's the 8th house is where that lives. All things that are hidden and down deep that we don't see. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So Pluto wants to demolish it. And Pluto wants to destroy it. And Pluto wants to take Capricorn's awareness of how he saw 8th house things in the world and completely demolish it. And the moon is right next to it. The moon, Cancer's moon, is in Scorpio's house. I'm a Cancer Sun, Scorpio ascendant. Pluto's my ruling chart ruler, and the moon is my sun sign. I'm home. I got my Pluto and my moon in the 8th house, in hardworking Capricorn energy, which is why we've been talking and going as deep as we have, and just kind of carried on, because that's Saturn. Saturn comes with Capricorn in his discipline, in his wanting to stay at something and really get the meaning out. So there's that.
Hell yeah.
And me just laughing like that, and I don't even know why this energy just came upon me. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, I just couldn't control it, man.
It's the pan energy.
It is. I just was free and just was like, this is fun. And, I know you don't get to talk about things like this only like
We're
once a week.
We're just fucking around.
We're just getting information out. Yeah. So, I mean, if any of you have been thinking about, like, doing this and you're, like, biting at the chaps, man, go for it. Just do it. Just do it. I would listen to you. I'm interested in people being just down to earth and like telling it like it is. So, hey, let's close, man, because it's 9:41.
Yeah.
I did not have sex with that woman. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Yes. Close us out with the moon. Benefit. What do you do to help with your moon, you moody little thing, you? You Gen Z moody thing, you.
Well, you mentioned meditation before, and I was going to say mindfulness in action is very important. When you actually notice patterns in the way you think about things and react to things, and combined with psychedelics, on my way, as I was meditating and practicing mindfulness as normal, I was also taking mushrooms. And one day after, it was only 3.5 grams, I just woke up and I realized, why the fuck am I paying attention to politics? Because me, personally, every single time I clicked on an article or watched a video, at the end of it, I was angry, I was upset, I was depressed. So I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this to myself? And after I disengaged from politics, that was a huge piece of the puzzle to not being miserable. And I'm not saying everyone needs to disengage from politics. And I'm saying be mindful and figure out what your politics is. What every single time you do it, you end up with a net, loss in your energy.
Oh, snap. I can't believe you just said that. Net loss in your energy, right?
Yeah.
I didn't say this. I just flipped the page over from some notes I took today. But the first thing I wrote down was, Spirit dropped this in my heart, man, when I was out in the woods having a fire, just sitting there. I love my fires. Y'all get in fires. Find a place to have some fires and sit in a circle and just sit there. Shut your phones off, man. Shut your phones off. All right, anyway, I heard verbal economics. And it ties in exactly to what you just said. The law
I got
of
the economics
exchange.
part, but
the law,
the verbal part.
The law of exchange.
Are you talking about energy harvesting? Yeah, that's why I went with that. As we pay attention to the news, like the powers that be are absorbing our negative energy. I mean, that's what I got from that.
Okay, yeah. So verbal economics ties into that, because basically what you spend your time speaking about is a vibration
Right.
that comes out of your body, and then it goes out and it has an impact. It doesn't just go out and the resonance doesn't just stop. There's a law that brings it back. Therefore, your speech should be something you measure. It should be something that you understand holds power, because it's like casting a spell every time you speak.
Right. The guy who speaks the least, when he speaks up, everyone listens. Because they're like, shit, this guy never fucking talks.
I have heard that. That's not good for a podcast, though. I guess we're not those kinds of people. I mean, if you're
not in this moment.
If you're doing mime, that might work.
Large groups, I'm not a very outgoing person. Or ask me about a fucking planet or Kabbalah or some shit, and I will fucking talk.
I got you, man. So your tip, we're going to close this up. Your tip was on meditation and mindfulness, right? Yeah. And I tell you what, I actually got a Master of Mindfulness certification. It took me 2.5 years to go through this program. Wow. It was legit. It was powerful, changed my life. And I did it because I really wanted to understand how the mind works in deep, deep levels, on a psychological level, which I've always been fascinated. That's the Scorpio ascendant, deeply into psychology, most Scorpios. I forgot where I was going with that. I'm sorry.
We're ending it.
We're ending it. That's it. We're just going to shut it off.
That's where we were going. I mean, I thought that's what you meant.
We're going to have to cut this out. We can't leave.
No.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, I can't close yet. I have to give the crystals. Let me just give the 3 crystals
section?
again.
I didn't know you had another thing.
No, I don't. Just the crystals. Moonstone. This will help you with your emotions and trying to center and bring the masculine and the feminine together. Moonstone. Okay. And labradorite. And selenite or selenite. It's pronounced different ways. And those stones are supposed to help you. And the color's blue. And you mentioned green. Remember that? That's where the green comes in. And light purples. So there's something to color therapy. That's for another broadcast. Right. Color therapy is legit, though. It works. So yeah, next week from the moon, we are doing Mercury. Oh my planet. I love
also an energy close to us. Yes.
So Mercury, the messenger. Learn about him. And he rules in the zodiac, but we'll hear what else we're going to talk about him. But Gemini and Virgo. So air and earth expression, speaking and earthly matters. He is the entrepreneur after all, Mercury. He is interested in things like that, making money, you know. But I shall bid you adieu. Farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, and good night.
Good night.